So welcome, Dillon. Thank you for coming on. So could you briefly introduce yourself to our audience?
Sure. First of all, thank you for having me and for this opportunity and you doing all this work to publicize research in the field. My name's Dillon. I grew up in the United States in New Jersey, right outside of New York City, but I've bounced all around. I was a teacher for a while. I was a director for health and PE. I did my PhD at the University of Auckland in New Zealand in Aotearoa. I was a lecturer, professor, whatever the title is, depending on the country, in Maryland, in the USA, in Scotland, and now I'm at the University of Queensland in Australia. What I do is essentially research around health, well-being, and movement, and the intersection of diversity and equity, and how we can make movement environments more equitable for all people.
Okay. It's great to have you here. So we are doing this short interview to help, share the great work and highlight the people behind your research. Let's start with the basics of the article. So can you give us a brief summary of your paper?
Yeah, so the goal of the paper, simply put, was to look at queer and trans students' experiences in physical education, but also to understand what those experiences can tell us about the state of the field in physical education. So what we found, in a summary way, is that the way that physical education is currently taught is extremely narrow. It narrows the types of people that, young people can express themselves to be. It narrows down definitions of health. It narrows down the type of movement that young people are allowed to engage in. And as physical education keeps narrowing down these things, it actually limits not just queer and trans students, because we do know that, but it's these same mechanisms that limit queer and trans students, that limit young women and girls, that limit people who have disabilities, that limit people from diverse ethnic backgrounds, maybe Black, Indigenous, Spanish. They limit anybody who does not fit sort of that ideal mold of what is expected in PE.
So how did your own background shape your approach to this study?
So my background, cards on the table, I'm a gay guy. So that's the reason why I'm interested in this type of work. But when you talk about previous work and research background, my master's degree was with a guy named Steve Silverman. He is one of the most well-respected quantitative researchers in physical education. And his entire, research agenda in the later part of his career was around attitude and how students feel about physical education. And then when I did my PhD at the University of Auckland, my supervisors were Katie Fitzpatrick and Richard Pringle. Richard Pringle looked at, masculinities, and Katie Fitzpatrick looked at how physical education and health education operates with certain codes, right? And these codes they affect people that are women, that are in New Zealand, it's Maori or Pacifica. So why does this matter? All their backgrounds have affected the way that I think about physical education. So over time, I've sort of developed this interest in affect and how affect operates. And when I say affect, I don't mean just emotion, I mean forces and how they operate and how they have the ability to open up and empower people, but also limit and constrict people.
So who is your target audience?
For this paper, I wrote it for people in physical education. And if anybody reads it, they'll realize that from start to finish, the entire story is really written about the history of physical education, how that has come to matter today, how it's affecting queer and trans bodies, and what are the implications of this. And one of the things that I keep saying is that it's about relevance. And right now, physical education is losing relevance with young people. And it's not just queer and trans young people, it's the majority of young people. And if we don't make changes and make them urgently, not only are we not going to be relevant, but we might not even be around because everything's moving quickly and we're going to be left behind.
Yeah. Anything else you want to add or share with our, social media audience?
Yeah, I just think that, when we're thinking about physical education, we have to really think about what we're teaching and how that affects young people. And the way that physical education is currently constructed is that there's one ideal understanding of health, and that there's one ideal understanding of gender, and there's one ideal understanding of fitness, and there's one ideal understanding of athletic bodies. Mm-hmm. And if you don't fit into those boxes, then you're considered unhealthy, you're considered unathletic, you're considered unfit, right? Mm-hmm. And in many cases, immoral, right? And mm-hmm. it's this idea that you have to confine young people's bodies, and that they are expected to conform to this ideal. But that's not the way health is, and that's not the way that movement is. Mm-hmm. Health is diverse, it's inclusive, and it looks different for every person. Same with movement. I always say this sort of, I guess it's a metaphor. My mother every year watches the dog shows, the American Kennel Club shows, mm-hmm. and they have different categories for the dogs. And it's because you don't judge an English bulldog in the same way that you would judge a Great Dane or a Shih Tzu or a Pomeranian. Right? Yeah. They have different bodies, and therefore their bodies move differently. They experience health differently, and they have a diversity in the way that they operate. But yet, when it comes to humans, we know that humans have different body types, and they have different ways of moving, and they have different ways of experiencing health. And this is influenced by genetics, it's influenced by culture, it's influenced by socialization, amongst many other things. But yet, we judge everybody based off of the Great Dane. And the question is that really working? And my argument is it's not working for physical education, and it's not going to work if we keep doing it. This was my PhD data. Yeah. Did an earlier version of the presentation of this in 2019, I think. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That was this paper, but it's completely a different paper now. It's because I've had time to sit on it and think about it, and to really use what I've learned over the years to use the data differently. It's really interesting because when you're analyzing your data, you're in a different mindset, than I was 6 years ago. Mm-hmm. So the way that I look at data, and some things still stayed the same and made sense, but some things were completely different, and some things had different context and different meaning after time. And it's just this wider view that you have, or maybe not wider, different view that you have because you're thinking differently, you're emerging in different things. That data analysis looks different. So it wasn't necessarily, that I reanalyzed my data from a previous publication. It's more so that I never published off of my PhD the way that I thought I would. A good paper is that what it does is it makes you think differently about something, and it helps you make sense of it. And even like with this paper, I started it as a historical thing, right? I said, here we go. PE in most places started as gymnastics, rhythmic movement, and like drills and stuff. Then in the 1920s, it was about the ideal citizen. People it sounds really nice, right? The ideal citizen, but it created a really idea that there's a singular ideal body. And that has stuck from the 1920s all the way to now. It's that sediment that's piling up. And the ideal body to the next phase was physically fit because it had to be war ready, or it had to be athletic because it had to be ready for team sports, but it had to be thin or slender or muscular because it shouldn't be obese. So it's like this ideal stays there. Then there's gendered ideas on top of it, and then there's sport, then there's fitness, then there's obesity. It's like all weighing down. And that's the whole point, is to show that where we are today, it's not like a random act. It's a history of all these things that come together. Really insightful conversation. And thanks again for taking the time today. And I really appreciate your contribution to the journal.